Hello, everyone. I'm Jackie Brockington. Thanks so much for being with us here on News 13, your source for complete trial coverage. All right, let's bring in our team for you. News 13's Kelly Cook and legal analyst Mark NeJame have been monitoring all of this for us since court began, as well as News 13's web anchor Christine Webb. But first, we want to bring in our Seminole County reporter Jeff Allen, who's been following Ms. Jeantel's testimony from his vantage point inside the Seminole County Criminal Justice Center. And Jeff, the issue of race has been at the center of this case from the beginning, and it surfaced again during more testimony of Rachel Jeantel this morning.
Yeah, it came up again, and in a way we really have not seen yet, while Zimmerman defense attorney Don West was continuing to cross-examine Rachel Jeantel, the state's star witness on the stand. Now, Jeantel is testifying about those critical moments just before George Zimmerman fatally shot Trayvon Martin and what she could hear over the phone while talking to Trayvon, just before she says the phone call abruptly ended. Now, the defense continued to try to chip away at Jeantel's credibility by showing discrepancies in her previous statements to investigators, even taking her through a letter she wrote to Sabrina Fulton, Trayvon Martin's mother. But the big sticking point so far today is Jeantel's account of what she heard, testifying that at one point she testified that she heard Trayvon Martin say, quote, get off, as he was pursued by George Zimmerman. But West questioned her extensively about that. We even heard a recording of a previous statement where Jeantel appeared to say she could have heard or even couldn't hear Trayvon. Now, that would obviously conflict her more recent statement. Now to another interesting moment from Jeantel's testimony today. We heard a lot of accusations that George Zimmerman racially profiled Trayvon Martin, but listen to how defense attorney Don West turned that around in this exchange with Jeantel.
What's one thing about what Trayvon Martin told you that made you think this was racial?
Describing the person.
Pardon me?
Describing the person.
I just didn't...
Describing the person that was watching him and following him, sir.
Describing the person is what made you think it was racial?
Yes.
And that's because he described him as a creepy...
Yes.
So it was racial, but it was because Trayvon Martin put race in this.
No.
You don't think that's a racial comment?
No.
You don't think that creepy is a racial comment?
No.
And the bleeped out comment there was a racial comment used to describe white people. Now, on another note, Rachel Jeantel also testified at one point today that Sabrina Fulton was sitting right next to her at one point when she made a statement to investigators early on in this case, and that's raising a lot of questions with Zimmerman's defense team, having the mother of the victim, Trayvon Martin, in this right next to her when she made one of those statements to police early on. A lot of questions with them, and they continue to chip away at her credibility. Now let's head over to News 13's Kelly Cook, who continues our live team coverage. Kelly.
All right, thanks a lot, Jeff. Speaking of Sabrina Fulton, inside that courtroom today, the mother of Trayvon Martin, she's vowed to be there every single day to see justice served for her son. But is it possible that a mistake that would happen could cost this case? Let's bring in News 13 legal analyst David Jeantel. He is standing by, stepping in for Mark NeJame from NeJame Law. Thank you so much for being with us, David.
Thank you, Kelly.
Don West took no time, wanted to be sure to point out to the jury that Sabrina Fulton, during the first time that she was questioned by Crump with FDL Lee, as well as Bernadette Rianda from the state attorney's office, was there along with Sabrina Fulton right there when this witness was giving her statement. Is that a mistake?
I wouldn't say it was a mistake. I would say that I think it's unusual. Normally during depositions, it's usually just the parties, the attorneys and the deponent. It's a little bit different where you have the mother of a deceased victim who is there. And the concern about that is the influence that she may have had or did have on Ms. Jeantel. If I recall correctly, Ms. Jeantel indicated that she cleaned up the language a little bit in regards to the testimony. You know, ultimately, if there's a mother present of a deceased victim and there's a family friend or a friend of that deceased victim, that can greatly potentially affect the testimony. And it appears that it may have here.
Well, speaking of that time where Sabrina Fulton was inside that room, she said she never mentioned some crucial testimony that Rachel Jeantel said on the witness stand today about the term get off. She said she heard get off from Trayvon Martin. Take a listen to this sound.
Yes. Yes, sir.
when you went to Ms. Fulton's house with the letter in hand to talk with her, and she so desperately wanted to know what had happened, you, among the things that you chose to tell her, decided not to tell her that you'd heard her son say a little get off on the phone.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying that's because she didn't specifically ask you?
No, sir.
Could you explain your thinking?
I didn't want to be there, sir.
Of all the things that you decided were important to tell her, to write in the letter and to...
She did not ask me for examples.
She did not
Ask me for examples, definition,
She did not ask me for
no
examples.
examples, reason, none of that. The state asked me that. Court did not ask me that either.
Well, Richard Jeantel did not mention that that letter to the mother, Sabrina Fulton, that term "get off." That's a big part of the state's case there, right?
Absolutely. I think the most important part of Ms. Jeantel's testimony are the basics that she's sticking to. But I think what Don West is trying to do is establish that there were multiple occasions that Ms. Jeantel either omitted information or slightly changed it, possibly either because Mr. Martin's, when I say Mr. Martin, Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, was present, or for various other reasons. I just definitely think that it's unusual but important that Mr. West point that out for both sides, and I think that they're trying to get to the heart of the issue, which is what she actually said. And I think she's trying to clarify that. Mr. West and Mr. De La Rionda are all trying to clarify exactly what was said.
Absolutely. All right, David, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. Good point there. Now